Hook he drove for Uber every night, but his daughter thought he was ashamed of her. Every night at exactly 9, the same silver car rolled out of the driveway, its engine humming low like a secret that refused to be spoken, and from behind the upstairs curtain, a little girl in a wheelchair watched her father disappear into the dark, believing with all her fragile heart that he was running from her, not towards something greater. The neighborhood lights flickered across the windshield as he drove away, and she imagined him laughing freely with strangers, introducing himself as a man without responsibilities, a man without a daughter who moved through the world on wheels instead of feet. Inside her chest, a quiet storm gathered because children notice absence more than presence, and to her, his empty chair at school events screamed louder than any explanation he ever gave. She remembered the way other parents stood beside their children during award ceremonies, clapping loudly, taking pictures, smiling proudly, while her space remained painfully vacant. And each time someone asked where her father was, she forced a smile and said he was busy at the office, even though she had begun to suspect that the truth felt heavier than that simple excuse. One rainy evening, when thunder rolled across the sky and water soaked the pavement in silver reflections, she waited longer than usual. Her heart pounding with a question she was finally brave enough to ask, and when a familiar pair of headlights turned into the nearly empty school parking lot, illuminating the wet ground in sharp white beams, her breath caught in her throat as she realized the driver behind the wheel was not a distant office worker, but her own father, gripping the steering wheel tightly as if the world depended on it. In that frozen moment, with rain tapping against metal and the scent of wet asphalt rising into the air, everything she believed about him balanced on the edge of a single devastating possibility: that he had chosen a life in the shadows because he was ashamed to stand in the light beside her. And as she rolled forward through the rain toward the driver's side window, her small hands trembling and her reflection staring back at her in the glass, she felt the sharp sting of fear mixed with heartbreak, preparing herself to hear a truth that might shatter whatever remained of the fragile bond between father and daughter. The engine hummed beneath him, a low, tired sound, like a secret that refused to rest. Every night at 9, he backed the old silver sedan out of the driveway. The headlights cut through the quiet street. Porch lights flickered. Neighbors watched through thin curtains. He kept his eyes forward. His daughter watched from the upstairs window. She always stood behind the pale blue curtain, small fingers gripping the fabric. She believed he left because of her, because she used a wheelchair, because people stared, because whispers followed them in grocery stores. She thought shame had a shape, and that shape was her. Inside the car, he adjusted the mirror. His reflection looked older than his 43 years. Deep lines across his forehead, eyes ringed with fatigue, but steady, always steady. The app chimed. A pickup request. Downtown, 5 minutes away. He inhaled slowly. The car smelled of pine air freshener and faint gasoline. His hands rested on the steering wheel. Calloused. Strong, he drove. Streetlights passed in rhythm. Orange glow. Shadow. Orange glow. Shadow. He thought about hospital corridors, white walls, the scent of antiseptic, the day the doctor explained the spinal condition. Permanent, expensive, relentless, therapy costs stacked like bricks. So he drove every night until 2 in the morning, sometimes 3. The city transformed after midnight. Neon signs buzzed. Bars spilled laughter onto sidewalks, perfume mixed with cigarette smoke. Tires hissed against wet asphalt. His phone buzzed again. Another rider, a young couple arguing softly. He heard fragments through the rearview mirror. Accusations, regret, promises. He focused on the road. He always focused on the road, because if he focused on anything else, his chest tightened, and he needed to stay calm. For her, back home, his daughter lay awake. She listened to the clock tick, 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 tick. Tick. She imagined him laughing with strangers, pretending he had no child, pretending he was free. She pressed her palms against her ears. The silence felt heavier than noise. One Friday night, everything shifted. Rain fell hard. Thick drops slammed against the windshield. The wipers moved frantically. Left, right, left, right. Visibility blurred into streaks of red taillights. The app chimed again. A long-distance ride. High surge price. He hesitated. The hospital invoice flashed in his memory. Therapy session overdue. Wheelchair maintenance required. He accepted the ride. The pickup location was near her school. The parking lot was nearly empty. One flickering lamp, rain pooling near the curb, and there she was, her small figure beneath the awning. No umbrella, wheelchair wheels soaked. He froze. His breath stopped halfway. His daughter stared at the car, confusion first, then recognition. Her face drained of color. She thought he was there to hide. To avoid being seen, to avoid her. The passenger opened the back door, a man in a business suit, impatient. The door light illuminated the back seat, but his daughter rolled forward instead, rain hitting her shoulders, soaking her hair. She reached the driver's side window. Her knuckles tapped the glass, soft at first, then harder. He lowered the window. Rain sprayed inside. Cold droplets touched his cheek. Her eyes glistened. Not from rain alone. You told everyone you work late at the office, she said. Her voice trembled. My teacher asked why you never come to events. I said you are busy, but you are here, driving strangers. Are you ashamed to sit next to me at school? Each word landed like a stone. The suited passenger shifted in the back seat, cleared his throat. The meter was running. Rain intensified. Water dripped from her chin. He stepped out of the car, shoes splashing into cold puddles. The businessman protested from the back. He ignored it. He walked around to her, kneeled in the rain. Water soaked through his trousers. He took her hands. They were freezing. Listen to me, he said. I drive because your therapy costs more than my salary. I drive because I want you to walk someday if medicine allows it. I drive because every mile means another chance. I never come to school because I sleep during the day, because I work when you sleep, so you never see how tired I am, so you never feel guilty. Her breath hitched, rain mixed with tears. Behind them, the suited passenger opened the door again. Sir, I am getting late, he snapped. His daughter looked at the man, then back at her father. For the first time, she noticed the dark circles beneath his eyes, the stiffness in his shoulders, the way his hands trembled slightly. The shock settled slowly, like cold water sinking into fabric. I thought you were hiding from me, she whispered. He shook his head. I was hiding my fear, not you. Lightning cracked across the sky. The parking lot flashed white. In that brief light, the suited passenger stepped closer. His expression had changed. The irritation was gone. He looked. In that brief light, the suited passenger stepped closer. His expression had changed. The irritation was gone. He looked at the wheelchair, at the father kneeling in rain, at the child shivering. The man reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a card. My sister works at a foundation for spinal research, he said quietly. They sponsor advanced therapy trials. I heard everything. Call this number tomorrow. He placed the card in the father's hand. Then he stepped back. Rain softened to a steady drizzle. The world felt still. The father stood slowly, helped his daughter back under the awning. She looked at him differently now, not with doubt, but with dawning understanding. He watched as the suited passenger returned to the car, but the moment was not over. Across the parking lot, a group of students had gathered under another shelter. They had seen everything. Whispers traveled. Phones lifted. One girl stepped forward. She approached his daughter. You are lucky, she said softly. My father left when things became hard. Yours fights in the rain. The words hung heavy in the damp air. His daughter looked up at him again. Her expression shifted from shame to something fierce, something protective. He felt his throat tighten. The rain stopped completely. Silence filled the lot, but in that silence another sound emerged. A slow clap, then another. Students under the shelter began applauding, not loudly, not mockingly, but with respect. His daughter stared at them, stunned. The father felt heat rise in his chest. Not embarrassment, not shame, pride, raw and overwhelming. The suited passenger called from the car. Sir, I can wait. Take your time. He turned back to his daughter. She reached for his hand for the first time in months, and as her fingers wrapped around his, she said something that shattered the last shadow between them. I want to ride with you tonight. Let them see me. Let them see us. The air shifted again. He hesitated only a second, then he nodded. He lifted her gently, placed her in the front passenger seat, folded the wheelchair with careful precision. Rainwater dripped from its metal frame. He secured it in the trunk, closed it firmly. The suited passenger slid into the back without complaint. The engine started once more. But this time the hum felt different, stronger, steadier. As they drove out of the school parking lot, headlights sweeping across wet pavement, his daughter sat upright, not hiding, not shrinking, watching the world through the windshield. And somewhere between the fading rain and the distant glow of city lights, something inside both of them shifted forever. The rain returned the next evening, soft at first, then steady. He checked the rearview mirror. His daughter sat beside him. Seatbelt fastened, hands folded in her lap, silent, but not distant. The city lights reflected in her eyes, gold, red, white streaks sliding across the windshield. The app chimed. The app chimed. A pickup 3 blocks away. He glanced at her. Are you sure? She nodded. I am not hiding anymore. Her voice was calm, stronger than before. They stopped outside a crowded restaurant. Music spilled onto the sidewalk. Laughter echoed. 2 teenagers approached the car. One of them recognized her, a classmate. He slowed his steps, surprised. You drive Uber? He asked her father. The question hung sharp in the air. For a second, the old fear tried to return. The father felt it rise in his chest, heavy, threatening. His daughter answered first. Yes, he drives at night so I can get the best treatment. Her chin lifted slightly. The classmate looked at her, then at her father. Something shifted in his expression. Respect replaced curiosity. That is cool, he said quietly. They entered the back seat. The ride began. Inside the car, the music from the radio hummed low. Soft piano, rain tapping gently on glass. The father focused on the road, but he felt her presence beside him. Not fragile, not ashamed, proud. Halfway through the ride, traffic stopped suddenly. Red lights stretched ahead like a warning. Sirens wailed somewhere close. An accident had blocked the intersection. Flashing blue and red lights painted the wet road. Twisted metal glistened under street lamps. His daughter inhaled sharply. The memory of hospital corridors returned to both of them at once. Cold floors, machines beeping, doctors speaking in careful tones. He felt her hand reach for his sleeve, not in fear, in connection. I am glad you were driving that night, she whispered. The night of my accident. You were the one who pulled me out before the car caught fire. The words hit him like thunder. He had never told her how terrified he was, how his hands burned as he forced the door open, how smoke filled his lungs, how he carried her away seconds before flames swallowed the vehicle. He swallowed hard. I would do it again every day, he said, without hesitation. Traffic slowly began to move. The sirens faded behind them. When they reached the destination, the teenagers stepped out quietly. One of them leaned toward the front seat. Your father is brave, he told her. Not everyone fights that hard. The door closed gently. The car grew quiet again. Only the hum of the engine remained. His daughter stared ahead. For years she had believed her wheelchair defined her story. Now she saw something else. A father who refused to surrender. A man who traded sleep for hope, who carried both her weight and his fear without complaint. The app chimed again. Another request. High demand. Late hour. He looked at her. Tiredness pressed against his eyes, but something brighter lived there now. Do you want to go home? He asked. She shook her head. Let me stay. Let me see how hard you work, so I never misunderstand again. He smiled softly. The road opened ahead. Streetlights stretched into the distance like a path of small suns. And as the car moved forward into the deep blue night, father and daughter sat side by side. No secrets, no shame. Only the quiet strength of 2 hearts learning each other again. When she finally heard the truth, standing there under the dim parking lot light with rain sliding down her cheeks and mixing with tears, she no longer tried to hide. The world inside her shifted in a way she never expected, because her father was not escaping her at all. He had been fighting silently for her, trading sleep for strength, comfort for sacrifice, and pride for purpose, carrying the weight of hospital bills and therapy costs alone so that she would never feel like a burden. The shock that once tightened her chest melted into something deeper and warmer, a fierce understanding that love does not always arrive in loud applause or public appearances. Sometimes it arrives in exhausted eyes, trembling hands on a steering wheel, and miles driven through the night while the rest of the world sleeps. As she looked at him kneeling in the rain, soaked and unapologetic, she realized that shame had never lived in his heart. Only fear of failing her, only determination to give her a future stronger than her present. And in that raw, vulnerable silence between them, the misunderstanding that had grown for months collapsed completely. When he helped her into the passenger seat and started the engine once more, the hum of the car no longer sounded like a secret. It sounded like a promise, steady and unwavering. And as they drove forward together into the glowing city lights, side by side instead of separated by doubt, she understood that the man she thought was hiding from her had been standing in the storm for her all along. And from that night forward, whenever the headlights cut through the darkness, she no longer saw distance, she saw devotion.